Welcome, everybody. This is a super special episode of Indie Reads Aloud. Today, we're doing a special launch event with Jennifer Willcock. She comes to us all the way from Canada. Welcome, 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 Jennifer.
Thank you, Diana. Thanks for having me. It's great to be
I'm
here.
so excited to have you back because the book you're going to be doing today for us is Weight of the Crown, which is the sequel to the last book you wrote. And these are all fairy tale-esque stories, right?
Yes, retellings. And it's a continuation of the retelling of Little Red Riding Hood.
That was such a great book. I really enjoyed that. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Before we get started with all the reading and stuff, which, you know me, I just like to sit back and get completely immersed in the storytelling. You mentioned to me in the green room that you did a Kickstarter for this, and I know I have a lot of author friends who listen to the podcast. So I'm wondering if you could just give us a brief experience of what Kickstarter was like with a book. I've never done it, so I'm kind of curious about what that experience was like for you.
So it was a huge learning curve. There's a lot of work involved in the prep of getting it together. You have to write up a page and do some videos, and it is a lot of work. So it was a learning curve. But it was also really great because I actually got it. It's not just about crowdfunding, but it's also about broadening your audience. And so probably 75% of the people who backed me, I have no idea who they are. And so that's amazing.
But that's a good thing, right?
Yes. And that was the lure for me for Kickstarter. Because you want to expand your audience and get your story out to as many people as possible. And so that was great. And there's a great Facebook community, and they're very generous with their knowledge. And I couldn't have done it without learning from them as well. So it was overall great.
Yeah, that's really super good to know that there are resources that we as authors can connect to understand that process a little bit more.
Yes, there definitely is out there. And, I'd be happy to share anytime.
That would be great. Tell me a little bit about this story. I mean, you've written a lot of YA.
Yes.
And this is YA as well. Two of your books center around dance.
Yes.
Which I find fascinating. People who can stand on their toes, I think they're magical. So tell me a little bit. First of all, give me a little bit of the setup from the retelling of Red Riding Hood, and then how it leads into this sequel.
Okay. So in the first book, Into the Forest, Ryder is the Red Riding Hood character, and the wolves are human, and they rule the kingdom. And so Tio is the heir to the crown, and he represents the wolves. And the wolves think they're superior to everyone, especially the foresters, where Ryder is from. And so it's a case of them versus us, or us versus them, and how you really they want to work together, but their forces are driving them apart because they're supposed to be enemies. And so it's kind of goes along those lines. And then this story continues because Tio's, I'm not really giving anything away, but Tio eventually inherits the crown. And so this is his story, because as I wrote Into the Forest, I really liked Tio, and that character kind of took hold of me. And so I wanted to know more about him and how he was what his journey was going to be like in the following Into the Forest and the adventures that happened there. So it's just a continuation.
I think it's amazingly fascinating how different characters attach themselves to us as authors, and we feel compelled to write more about them.
Yes.
Some characters speak more loudly to us than others. And I find that a wonderful thing when you find those little niches of character that just keep talking to you. I think that's a great thing.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's really fascinating too. And it's always kind of the characters that I least expect that kind of grab hold of me.
So what was your favorite part about writing a sequel?
Yeah, part of it was just exploring Tio as he kind of matured and grew up a little bit. He's a little bit older, not by much, but he's had a lot of life experience by this point. And so that was really exciting to me, and really just to see where he and Ryder end up. I thought that was exciting.
Did you have any challenges with continuity?
Yes.
Or did that come rather naturally to you? I mean, did you have to go back and double check and
Yes.
compare?
Yes, because I am not a big plotter. And so I had to really go back and check a few times to make sure I was not, making stuff up that wasn't in the first book.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's fun to make up new stuff, but you have to connect it to the old stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, that's part of why I haven't finished my series yet, is because of that continuity idea.
Yeah.
That it not only the research to create the story, but then the aftermarket, so to speak, research of making sure that everything connects.
Yeah, that's right. And I was glad I wrote these books back to back. Otherwise, it would have been an even bigger challenge.
Sure. Yeah. If you spend more time away from it,
Yeah.
then trying to remember those nuances is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I am super excited to hear you read from this book, and then we'll
Okay.
talk more about this brand new story after you're done reading. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Perfect. When you are ready, please take the microphone and read aloud. This
Okay.
is The Weight of the Crown, a special new release from Jennifer Willcock.
This is in Tio's point of view. The click-clack of heels hitting the marble floors registered too late as Tio sat engrossed in a map of the surrounding forest and counties of Wolf Kingdom. Each county was overseen by a clan, and the Wolf King reigned over it all. He tried not to let the size of it overwhelm him, but some days it did. Tio. Tio hung his head, muttering under his breath. What did she want now? He was so tired of talking about the coronation. Glancing up from the map, he nodded at his mother. She strode in, shaking a sheet of paper. What's this? Tio held out his hand. I don't know, because I can't see what you're holding. She thrust it into his hand. Tio scanned the paper, his heart racing at the printed words. He schooled his features into boredom. It's a bill. I know that. It's from Evange's boutique, but I got my dresses from her weeks ago. This isn't my bill. Whose is it? Tio dropped the paper onto the map he'd been reading. It's none of your business. I used my personal money. I don't need to report it to you or anyone. Tio's mother tapped the bill with her long manicured nail. You can't fool me. It's for the hood girl, isn't it? You invited her. It's my coronation. I should be able to invite who I want. Tio ground the words out between clenched teeth. Speaking of which, why is Sirhan still around? I thought he left. He's harmless. I don't trust him. He's a weapons dealer, Tio growled. She strolled to the window and pulled back the curtain. That doesn't make him a villain. The heavy material dropped from her hand as she faced him. I enjoy his company, not that it's any of your business. Tio huffed out a breath at her echo of his own words. It's not the same thing as me paying for a dress for Jenna out of my personal funds. Sirhan sells weapons and wants to distribute them here. I said no. I'm asking again why he's still here. With your father gone, I get lonely. Sirhan makes me laugh and is a good conversationalist. I enjoy being around him. One day you'll understand. Wait, you get to enjoy Sirhan's company? Tio finger quoted the last two words. But I can't invite Jenna and Dr. Hood? I might remind you that the lupine flu is over due to them. Or did you forget? Tio, his mother's tone was firm, unyielding, the kind she used when he had crossed a line when he was 13 and tested her patience with his mouthiness. I'm asking for this one thing. You're the king, Tio. You serve the people. It's not about what you want anymore. Father always did what he wanted. The words spilled out before Tio could rein them in. Ugh, he wished he could take them back. He never wanted to be like his dad. His mother hiked her well-groomed eyebrows. You want to rule like your father? Is that it? Tio ran his hands through his hair. No. I want to have people there who I care about. You, Seth, Uncle Alaric, Jenna, and Dr. Hood. Is that too much to ask? Tio sank into his chair, shoving a pen out of the way. He wanted to throw more than a pen. One day, that's all I'm asking for. Her face softened. Make sure you take care of the bill discreetly. She exited the room, letting the door click softly behind her. A warmth spread over Tio as he examined the bill. He'd won this round with his mother. Sirhan still made him uneasy, but he let it go because he wanted Jenna at the coronation more. The bill of sale didn't give details. What had she chosen to wear? His heart kicked up its tempo as he thought about her in his arms, dancing. Suddenly, the coronation didn't seem like such a chore. I might even enjoy this. The week ahead sped by in a series of meetings with foreign dignitaries visiting for the coronation, as well as parties to celebrate the new king. Every night, Tio dropped into bed, asleep before his head hit the silk-covered pillow. By coronation day, all he craved was a little solitude, wishful thinking on his part. Instead, he did the next best thing. He played football with his brother in a rare, unscheduled 10 minutes. Lifting his face to the sun, Tio let its rays warm his cheeks. Incoming! He cut his gaze to the football flying at him, grabbing it out of midair before it landed on his nose. Hey! Seth pointed at him. You need to get your head in the game, or you'll have a black eye for your coronation, and I'll be in the doghouse with Mother. Tio drilled the ball back at his brother. It fell short, straight into the ground. Seth ran to pick it up. Relax, you're way too tense. He threw the ball to the left of Tio, making him jump for it. Maybe if you threw more accurately, I might be able to, Tio grunted. It's not my skills, bro. You've been wound tighter than a wind-up toy this past week. He deftly pulled the ball from midair. Seth definitely had the superior skills when it came to football. What's going on? It's a lot of pomp and ceremony. We've done it a million times over the years. Tio ran backwards, plucking the ball from its flight, bringing it close to his chest. It's my coronation. It's a little different than cutting ribbons and planting trees. People are waiting for me to mess up. If I make a mistake, it will become the headline of the day. Tio molded his hands around the textured skin of the ball, its roughness grounding him. What if I fail? What if I'm a lousy king, like Father? You're nothing like Father. The fact that you went to Dr. Hood for help with the lupine flu screams you're different than dear old Dad. You're human. You'll make mistakes. But if you own them and learn from them, it'll be fine. No one is expecting you to be perfect. Tio appreciated Seth's words, but he wasn't sure he believed him. He threw the ball in a perfect art. It's not just the coronation. Why is Sirhan still around? I said no to the weapons and thought that was the last of him. But he's still here, hanging around Mother. What does he want? Didn't we already discuss this? I think that's rather obvious. Seth waggled his eyebrows. Tio drilled the ball at his brother. Ugh, don't do that. Father's only just passed. This guy shows up and moves in like she's his for the taking. It looks bad. Why doesn't she see that? And she's on my back for inviting Jenna to my coronation. Seth let the ball fly past him. First, stop pummeling me with the ball. I don't feel like being covered in bruises. He stalked over to where the ball had landed and picked it up. Throwing it back and forth between his hands, he walked up to Tio. Maybe she's flattered by all the attention. Father barely registered her presence the last few years. Sirhan is probably a distraction from losing Bledden and all the other changes. I wouldn't worry too much. Maybe. Tio swiped a trickle of sweat from his brow. I miss Bledden. He should be here for this, he rasped. What would Bledden make of all the fuss of the crowning of the heir? He'd be having a ball teasing Tio. That's what. I miss him too. Seth stared off into the distance. He would love this. Yeah, he'd be rubbing my nose in it all. Tio huffed a laugh, loosening the tightness in his throat. I should probably go inside and finish one of the several tedious duties that still need to be done before the ceremony. Seth clapped him on the shoulder. Yeah, we've got a king to crown today and some beautiful women to charm. Tio's shoulders eased as he walked with his brother to the palace entrance. There's only one girl I want to charm today. The crowds were at least 10 people deep, creating a sea of heads over the sidewalks and streets. Tio stared at the scene outside his car window. He waved at a little boy holding a Wolf Kingdom flag. The boy's eyes went wide as he pointed at the royal limo. I can't believe the number of people who came out for this. It looks like the whole city and half the kingdom is here. Tio leaned forward slightly to get a look around his brother, trying to see out the other side of the car. It's a big deal. You represent a new beginning for Wolf Kingdom. People are hoping things are going to change for the better. They're putting their trust in you. No pressure. I'm not so sure about that. There's been a lot of pushback from the new policies I've put in place regarding the forest. Tio watched as a guy, hanging from a light pole, waved a sign with Tio's face on it. In bold letters, it read, "Long live the king." He lifted his hand in acknowledgement, hoping the dude didn't fall. I think everyone came here for free food and drink. Brilliant strategy, by the way. It's a given they'll party in the streets, but at least this way there are controls in place. Seth fiddled with his military collar. But I'm sure that's not the only reason they've gathered today. The car made the final turn into the cathedral's drive. Tio gulped water from a bottle, hoping to ease his dry mouth. Even through the glass, the roar of the crowd shook the vehicle. I guess it doesn't matter why they came. Had they come for him or for the party and the pomp and circumstance? It wasn't every day a new king was crowned. He didn't have an answer, but part of him desired them to be here because they wanted and supported him as king. Wolfpack surged around the vehicle, opening doors for the brothers. The noise swelled until Tio could feel the rumble in his chest. Once on the steps, he turned and waved a final time before being ushered into the foyer of the cathedral. Seth followed on his heels. The actual coronation ceremony wasn't for another hour, but his mother wanted him there early to go over a few last-minute details. The woman was obsessed with details. Since she'd arrived in her own car, she was already there, waiting inside the doors of the cathedral. The Queen Mother was elegant in her cream dress and matching coat and hat. She held out her hands to him as he walked to her. "Darling, look at those crowds. This is what the city needed, what we needed." She kissed him on the cheek. "You're so handsome. I'm sure all the girls are swooning today." Tio rolled his eyes, but he couldn't help smiling, since his mother appeared so happy. At least he was the reason today, not Sirhan. She brushed the fabric off of his jacket. "I'm so proud of you too, Wolf." Wrapping her arms around his waist, she squeezed gently. "You can do this." Now, she stepped back. "Enjoy today." Tio focused on his surroundings and all the players in the ceremony who were present and waiting instead of the weapons dealer as he headed toward the archbishop who would perform the crowning ceremony. Tio extended his hand, making it clear the bishop didn't need to bow. No need for formalities at this point. The archbishop's firm grip eased Tio's nerves. "Your Majesty, it's an honor. Are you ready?" Tio inhaled deeply in an attempt to calm the swirling butterflies in his stomach. "As ready as I'll ever be." He wiped his palms on his pants discreetly. "This is real." And that's the end.
Thank you very much. I'm super excited to read this story. I love retellings of fairy tales. Can you tell me? I'm in the process right now of working on a retelling of Snow White.
Oh,
What was the thing that made you choose Red Riding Hood to retell?
well, first of all, I want to say I love Snow White. That's like one of my favorites. So
I'm having a lot of fun with it.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to reading that one.
Yeah.
I chose Red Riding Hood because it's a lesser known. It's not that it's just not as popular as like Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast and some of those retellings. And I always found Red Riding Hood to be a little bit different than the other fairy tales, a little more dark. And I find the wolf character very fascinating. And as I did research for this book, I researched wolves and just their general behavior. And, that made me even, if you actually study wolves, they're a very fascinating animal.
Yeah, they are. They are.
So yeah, I guess it was just that it was lesser known, and I just wanted to not go into the, realm of where a lot of people have already tread.
Who is the most difficult character in this story, Weight of the Crown, for you to write? What was the one that you found the biggest stumbling block in bringing to the page?
Part of it was the wolves, because at first I had to really work because people were like, "Are they human?" Like they kind of were like, "Well, are they human or are they?" And I was like, "No, they're human. They're not. It's not a werewolf situation where they turn." So I had to really make that clear. And then because Tio was kind of an anti-hero, I also had to kind of have a villain, and so his father is the villain in the story and is the kind of the big bad wolf. And so that took a while to kind of figure out how I was going to do that and who really was the villain in the story.
So, the first book came out last year.
Yes, a year ago.
So it took you a year to write this second book. Was the second book something you were working on? Did it evolve out of the first book, or did you truly write them as two separate entities? Like,
I
did you
wrote,
finish the first one and then say, okay, now I know there's another story? Or did you take a slice of the first one that you built on?
I wrote it. I wrote it because I wrote this back in 2018 and 2019.
Okay.
And so it sat for a couple of years. So I wrote the first book and had a cliffhanger ending. And then my beta readers were like, don't do that.
Yeah. That's so frustrating.
Yeah. So then I changed it and moved kind of some of it over. So I knew I was writing a second book originally, but it did change from what I had originally set out.
So comparing the two books, in the Weight of the Crown, what's the biggest difference that you came upon, either emotional or intellectual? Physical differences seem to be real obvious between characters and places, geography. What was like one of those subtle differences that you saw between the two books when you were finished with the second?
I would have to say that probably Tio, in the end, it's his story, and so um, I think I like him even better by the time the end comes around.
Okay.
So yeah, like I just find it's fascinating how these characters grow and evolve, and that was really what I wanted to do throughout this book. But then I wanted to throw a whole bunch of crap at him too. So
So do you see a third book in this series emerging, or do you think you're going to write something new?
I'm gonna write something new. I actually prefer a duology rather than a trilogy.
Okay.
I always sometimes find that third book is just way, even reading it, I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. Um, Unless it's really good. But
So is
people
it
that,
one of those stop writing while you're ahead kinds of feelings?
yeah, and I feel like I've done their story.
Okay. So can I ask what the next book might be about?
Yes, I have. Well, I'm changing genres, so
Well, that's exciting.
yeah,
So what's the next
I
one going to be?
I'm writing an adult contemporary romance.
Wow, that is quite a departure.
Yeah. Yes, it
But
is.
how much fun? I mean,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
And,
I'm
and
so
they,
ex Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead. Go ahead.
it still has components of YA in it. So because I still like, doing fun things, and so I don't think it's not a dull adult book.
Adults can have fun too.
Yes, they can.
I'm so excited for your new book coming out. I'm so happy that you chose Indie Reads Aloud to help launch,
Thank
and
you.
I wish nothing but tremendous success for your release.
Thank you, Diana. And thanks for having me today. I just really enjoyed being here with you.
I love having you back. So as many more books as you want to write, keep coming back and reading.
I will. Thank you.
All right.